To the Speaking for Profit podcast. Today, we are talking a little bit about how therapists move from amazing sessions to being amazing speakers and do it with ease, which is one of the things that I think that you consistently communicate, Dominique, out into the world. I always want to start off the episode with giving you your flowers. So my flowers for you today, I want to thank you for inspiring us as like your followers and fellow creators to travel the world. One of the things I love about your content is you're always talking about like where you're moving and grooving, what new parts of the world you're in, what you eating. Even when it's been a travel drama, you talking about like, you know what, I'm still gonna travel, even though all this wild stuff is happening. So I think, as Black folks, like, it's not always the thing that we're centered on doing. And I appreciate that you always like express that and share that. So thank you for being one of the leaders in travel. I didn't think that would be the thing that we would probably start with, but I wanted to bring it in because for me, that's what really sets you aside.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And I guess I haven't had anyone describe the impact that way, or how it impacts you all. But yeah, through the laughter of my travels, the oh damn moments, to being stuck at airports. Travel is such an important part of my life because where I come from, Kenosha, Wisconsin, an hour between Milwaukee, an hour south of Milwaukee, hour north of Chicago, very small town. And I know a lot of people in my family and in my neighborhoods, in my community, they don't have that privilege where they can travel the world at the drop of a dime. And so when I'm traveling out around the world, it's personal, it's spiritual, it's all the things. And I take all of my people with me. And so when people be like, hey, I'm living vicariously through you, I don't take that for granted and I don't take it lightly.
Yeah, I could feel that. And when you share, like, it feels like it's very intimate. And, the other thing I'll give you kudos on is the headgear. I mean, you always is popping with a new hat. When we got on here, y'all said, hey, we got the money green going. We bringing in some abundance. But yes, like you consistently show up in the world in such a powerful way. So I always want to start off these conversations with joy. So like, what's bringing you the most joy right now in your life or in your business?
Thank you for that. I'll start with a story. About a month ago, no, in January 20th. So I was speaking in Zion, Illinois on January 20th. It was a Saturday. And the conference or the summit was called the Joy Summit. And so I'm a mental health professional. And of course, a lot of people come to me in therapy, but a lot of people bring me into their organizations when things are on fire. Let's put it that way. And so I had to figure out, how can I share a message to remind people that joy is free, to remind people that we have a responsibility to protect our joy, because the word isn't that you'll have happiness every day, but joy can come in those micro doses. So I left from that speaking engagement, being one of the featured keynotes, to literally my private car came and I was headed to speak in Africa within a few hours. But when I think about joy in my life, I really hang on to the micro doses, because I hold space as a clinician, as a speaker, trainer, consultant within organizations where people are at the depths of their struggles and their challenges. So my micro doses come from just being off work, being in nature, things that actually will last and regulate my nervous system, help me reset. I don't know if y'all have ever seen my dog Moomba. She's a diva, okay? Moomba is going to be my ticket, y'all. She is going to be my ticket. I just need to finish her social media profiles and actually have somebody manage them. But my dog, as a Black woman that is childless, that's different than child-free. I don't desire to be at this state of life. I'm ready for a family, but it just has not happened. And so my dog brings me so much joy. Being an auntie brings me so much joy. And I always ask myself, what do I need today to maintain the joy in the midst of social chaos? I'm responsible for that.
You better preach.
Okay.
You better preach.
You and me together. I'm gonna behave. Okay. But
it really is. It's a personal responsibility, right? Like that's what you're calling in. And what I love about particularly I want to rewind a little bit, right? Because you said I'm childless, right? Like this is something that I aspire to have, but I have my dog, I have my niece, right? And I love that you called it micro doses, right? We see a lot of people substacking about micro doses and mushrooms, but you're talking about doing it in this powerful, joyful way. And I just think that that's so beautiful, especially coming from someone who is a therapist. And I was on a call, you mentioned January, with my amazing partner. She's a social worker. And it was a call full of therapists. I wasn't on the call, but I was, you in the Zoom and you in the house, so you on the call. And the therapists were crying, and they were, between the funding being cut, people telling them they couldn't give their clients gender affirming letters anymore, all this stuff that was happening at the beginning of the year. And I love that the person at the beginning was like, what joy can we find in it? So one of my questions for you, which I've been thinking about all day, because I don't think I know this about you. One, how long have you been a therapist? And two, why did you choose therapy?
I've been in the mental health industry for going on 21 years. So as soon as I turned 18, I even say it started before I turned 18, because I used to work at the Boys and Girls Club. You did too?
No, but I was the Boys and Girls at the club. I was a part of the club.
I was at the club.
You were probably one of my people helping me, or we in the same age group, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. We was at the club, y'all. Not that club, but we was at the club.
Yeah.
I started in the mental health field because my first job, I was braiding hair for girls in the neighborhood. And I started a self-care business, at the age of 13 in the parking lot of the outreach center. Then I went to the Boys and Girls Club, and I became they used to call me, y'all, the no sex lady, or the AIDS lady, because I was an AIDS educator. I was like, I don't like that nickname. Find something else. So I've been in the mental health industry for almost 21 years, but I've been a mental health clinician for nearly 15. When I think about what pulled me to be a mental health professional, even before a therapist, life. I have grown to not lead with my story of struggle, but my story of struggle became my inspiration for holding safer spaces for Black women and girls that looked like me. There's no secret of the underrepresentation of qualified and dignified licensed mental health professionals. And so not only do I hold a master's degree in clinical social work, where I am a therapist, but I also hold a doctorate in clinical psychology. So what I like to think that the field picked me. I know that sounds cliche, y'all. I know it does. But believe me, I don't like to be in nobody's business. Okay. I don't like to be in nobody's business. Sometimes I don't even like the people at times. But when I realized during my freshman year in college, and mind you all, I arrived to college with a black garbage bag full of my most basic belongings, comforter, a few items of clothing, coming from homelessness off and on until about 15 years old, to the day I arrived at college with that black garbage bag and my running spikes. A few weeks into my freshman year, the RA, resident assistant, found me balled up in a fetal position, and they said, "What is going on?" And I said, "I don't know. I haven't been able to eat 3 meals a day in forever, but now I can." I had survivor's remorse because I left my siblings back in the hood, and I was an outcast because now I'm getting an education and I'm smart. I was going through complex traumas and grief. And then I'm in college, supposed to be one of the freest times of my life, and I was having a mental breakdown. So they said, "You got to go talk to somebody." And I was like, we don't really talk to white people like that, because what happens in this house stays in this house.
Right.
So being able to talk to that person my freshman year, I didn't know I wanted to be a therapist. I knew I wanted to help. I actually wanted to go to medical school. Then I became a lawyer. But then I was introduced to the concept of therapy. And I said, "You want to hear my story and help me get through it without asking for anything in return?" I thought that was unheard of, Evolve. So
right. I could just share my story, and there's nothing on the other side that I have to expect, right? Expectation. Yeah.
And you want me to get better. Like, you're giving me things and I don't have to do anything indiscriminate to get it. Wow. That was my introduction to therapy. So I obviously started studying it, and I started really looking at it, but how does it show up for us as Black and brown people? And that's why my lens in which I approach the wellness world is through liberated psychology and very solution-focused ways. We have got to move the needle forward.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And congratulations on having your doctorate. Y'all hear the hood here. Got a little helicopter in the background. But your doctorate, and then you also say you have your master's, right? In social work. I think that there's probably, when we look at the data and the stats, I don't even know how many of you actually exist in the world. I mean, it's probably not a lot. If y'all, number one, if y'all are watching this, we about to get into the nitty gritty. We just having fun right now, but y'all know what these sessions are about. One, if you are watching, don't just watch, put some things in the comments, tell us where you watching from. But two, get those notebooks out, y'all. Like gems are going to be dropped. There's notes to be taken. And if you're watching in the replay, we really appreciate you rewatching as well. So you started off in college, you got this amazing aspiration. You're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna be a therapist. You've been doing it for 15 years, but you've been doing it for almost half of a person's life, 21 years, right? Because you were doing it in the Boys and Girls Club. What I find, and maybe you could tell me if you find this as well, a lot of folks who are therapists already have amazing skills to be speakers, but don't really know how to cultivate them. And I heard this birdie told me that you're the one who knows the answer to that. Like, why do you think therapists don't realize that sooner? And when did you realize it, that there was such a connection between therapy and being a public speaker?
Yeah. Even to this day, in I would say majority of educational tracks, I have been a professor and taught at bachelor's, master's, and even the doctorate level of mental health tracks. They are still not teaching what it's like to utilize your degree, diversify your degree, or maximize your degree. So many mental health professionals are still being taught with a broke mindset. They're taught that because we're helping individuals who come to us in their most vulnerable states, and we might work at a community health center or however we start off, that we have to keep our gifts in that box. So when I'm working with mental health professionals through whether it's a VIP day, a strategy session, or even my Amplify Academy that I have now, there is a lot of unlearning. There is a lot of unlearning that our skills are only tied to four walls in a clinical setting. So whoever and whatever that little birdie was is absolutely true. My goal is to disrupt that dysfunctional thinking because I believe in the power of using the skills that we have cultivated in our sessions and transforming them into services organizations will want to buy, not your per hour rate. We're not trading time for dollars. We're talking about at least one comma and a few zeros using the skills you already have. And so you hear people like, well, I just want to charge $500. Honey, if you charge $500, they're going to negotiate you to $250.
Right.
We have invested thousands of dollars. And here's the reality. When we look at the socio-political climate, many of you all's loans are not being forgiven. They may not be forgiven. And so you can either go in deferment or go in default, or find a way to accelerate the things you need to take care of, putting your kids through college, paying your bills down, whatever it is you're going to do with your money, but we cannot do that at a per hour rate. So we've invested all this money, this energy, this time into honing and building up our skills. It is so possible to transfer what you know as a therapist into what we call thought leadership that offers actionable solutions to help people who got budgets that's ready to bring you in. When I'm working with mental health professionals, I always say, all you have to do is ask who brings in your outside speakers, trainers, and consultants. Connect me with that person and I'll take it from there. Organizations are waiting to bring us in. They don't know it yet, but they're waiting to bring us in. So here's the reality. Open your eyes. We are in demand.
Yeah, no scarcity mindset, y'all. No scarcity mindset. And what I appreciate about you is like you talking about the relearning. Many of the clients that I work with, they think they're coming to me to become better communicators, right? And they get in the room and I'm like, oh, y'all thought this was a speaking class, right? It really is a transformation for you to understand and have the confidence to command the money that you really want. Because a lot of people just want to, they could tell you, I hope to, charge five. I want to charge 20, but they won't say my rate is. And that little transformation just in the conversation is a lot of the work, y'all, that most coaches who are legitimate are going to work with you on. When you're starting to work with folks, and even when you started to work on yourself and you were saying, hey, I got to build out this business as a speaker, but I also have this business as a therapist. What are some of the tools that you were able to pull from therapy in that ecosystem and bring it into speaking? Or is it like completely two different business models?
No, this is why I love working with mental health professionals, because we understand humans and we understand behavior. Sales is sales psychology. People make decisions based on, people talk a lot about pain points. I talk about trigger points, because people can be in pain for a really long time and do absolutely jack, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So pain isn't always what's going to get an organization to, pick you or book you or whatever they're going to do with you. What is going to get them to activate and bring you in now? And so it's not different. But I love working with mental health professionals because we have to set up onboarding processes, our intake, we have our consent agreement, our contract. So I help them understand the parallel. You don't need to build a super new muscle or area in your brain to understand the speaking world. You just have to be able to reconceptualize what you do, declinicalize it, and put it out to the world in a way that they understand. That's not treatment, it's service.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm in the 11th week of my 12-week our academy program. So this cohort is just wrapping up. And when one of my academy members, she said, y'all, I'm gonna cuss right now. She said, "You a bad bitch," and I was like, she said, the way your brain works, we're in there emotional, we're crying because for so long they thought they had to think about transferring their gifts and skills only one way. Oh, I have to talk about EMDR, I have to do CBT, I have to do it that way. I said no. Or IFS. No, you can take what are the core wounds within an organization that is ripping them apart. They're calling it productivity, and I'm saying your people are panicking and burning out behind the scenes. Same language, internal family systems or core wounds or with it up in corporate. So it's so many similarities to how you build your processes. What I've enjoyed most about my coaching program and all the services I offer mental health pros is helping them unlock the barriers that's preventing them from saying, let me take the risk and do it that way. It's not different at all.
Yeah. What I hear from a lot of folks too, Dominique, is they don't want to lose their license, right? Like when I do talk to therapists, they're like, how do I do this in a way where I'm not breaking the rules as far as a therapist? So we got a lot of different people who are going to see this video and who are watching, who are in different parts of their career, probably as healers, as therapists, as social workers. Do you have any rules? Like, because I hear right now, like you're telling your folks to break all the rules when it comes to their mindset. Like, oh, you think you only could charge $500? Add some extra zeros and get past that. Oh, you think you got to create a whole new framework? No, use the framework you already been using. But what are some of the rules that you do need to set in order to make sure that you do stick within those limits as a therapist?
Yeah. First and foremost, if you maintain a license, your license supersedes any hat that you think you're going to wear as a speaker. Okay. So even with the disclaimer on every presentation, I put a slide, my legal disclaimer. One, don't steal my stuff. For people that's taking screenshots and stuff, that's my IP. Look, I have a lot of trademarks. I'm an IP person. But for the mental health professional, it's one step. This is not therapy nor a therapeutic relationship. If you're having a mental health emergency, please call 911 or something like that. That's the first step. Making sure that your liability insurance has a policy that covers you as a speaker, because you're operating out of the realm of a clinical role. So that's not going to buy. Understanding that speaking is not a regulated industry, but I wouldn't do anything that would go against the code of ethics that guides your primary profession and your license. If you're like, oh, I'm gonna just cut this corner and it contradicts one of those, you've already set yourself up for failure. Your license is your ticket to the ball. You can always fall back on that. That is your livelihood. So I tell them to use their good smarts. Common sense ain't that common. So I tell them to use their good smarts, your license, and that role supersedes any stage or hat that you wear as a speaker, trainer, consultant.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good to know. Y'all write that disclaimer down, please. Write it down.
absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the other things, Evolve, is don't be boxed in by the code. Because so now let me know if y'all know somebody that's the ethics police. You got the ethics police. You can't do that, honey. I'm not charging a client $25,000. What does that got to do with you? So you got people that's going to micromanage you. Even being so specific. If you know you might be an associate therapist, if you know you are a doctor of psychology but have not taken your state board, so in some states you can't call yourself a psychologist. Be very clear about how people represent you in media, press releases, how you're introduced on stage. If you heard it, correct it, because somebody is reporting you to the board. Okay. But don't be so bound by the code that you are afraid to live to make a deeper impact, make more income, and have more independence. Those are the 3 I's that I operate in my life and business.
Yes. And I love that you do it with such ease and such confidence. Tell me a little bit about what was your favorite stage to speak on, maybe in the last couple of years? And when I think about favorite stages, some speakers think about the bag, right? Like the money that they made. If you want to share that, that's cool. But for me, my favorite stages are the ones that transform me as a person, right? Because you can write a speech, and I always say the speech doesn't come alive until we're with the audience, and then we really know the transformation that we actually created. But for you, what's your favorite stage that you've been on the last couple of years?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about 2 different stages. Can I?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So the first stage was behind closed doors. It wasn't in front of thousands of people, hundreds of people. This was early, let's say about 6 years ago. I was in a pretty large speaking academy. And so I used to invest $45,000 a year over multiple years to get access to be in rooms where people were making major moves. And so I'm okay with sharing. I experienced community hurt, major rupture with me and my coach and their company. And so over the past few years, I was still healing from community hurt. But that's important because after a major trauma incident, I stepped on a stage. It was in Michigan. It was an all women's conference. They had found me. And then, you're like, oh, who are some of the past few speakers you had? They start dropping names and you just like, y'all want me? Y'all want me? And so in that moment, that shifted something of like, I don't have 1 million followers online. I don't have a TEDx. I don't even have a book out. So all of those things started clicking like, oh, those things are to come, but I still got to show up. I don't care. The post that they found me on, I think 2 people commented. Then they went through a deep dive and said, you don't post a lot, but you are clear, you're consistent, and you give whatever. So having this conversation, yes, the check was really good, but then how the whole event rolled out, it was one of those events like, oh my God, they really put effort into bringing me here. It was they picked me up from the airport. They actually had a red carpet. I had an hour photo shoot with people. Don't recommend that as a speaker to do a 1 hour social hour or photo shoot because you're smiling. And so you're on stage and your face is frozen and you got to talk like this. But I'm on stage and I delivered this keynote in front of 650 people. That was my biggest stage yet. There are people who flew around the world. And even before I got on stage, they're like, hey, we heard your podcast, Space for Sisters, episode 13, and you said this. Are you going to talk about that? I'm like, these people researched me. Then you start hearing things like, but they came from London to hear you because we are a predominantly white organization and we are really putting our foot forward and saying we are going to do better. So people flew in from around the world. So when you hear those things, I'm like, but they came to hear me?
Mm.
What so you start checking yourself in real time of like, oh, I do add value. I do create transformations. I don't just share knowledge. I create transformations in people's lives in real time. So speaking in front of 650 people, afterwards, all these people come up to you crying. Then after the keynote, they do a live Q&A. There are no note cards. You don't know what questions are going to be asked. So it was one of those speaking engagements that I had to step on stage 3 days after a traumatic event where I was almost thrown over a 22-story hotel balcony, and I had to show up.
Wow.
Okay. And I was trying to manage a crisis. It wasn't my doing. I was managing a crisis and this incident happened and I had to show up. And and there's a picture. I pointed my finger up to my God and I just said, ride on my tongue and sit in my heart. That switched over. I think it was about 5 years ago. That switched over and said, this is it. This is it.
That's when you knew it was the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
And here's the thing, you all. I knew I wasn't perfect. There are a lot of moments where it was just a lot of moments of like, not do I belong here, but my trauma tried to take center stage.
Yeah.
Okay? And so in that moment, I said, no, that part can't come out. Yeah, I'll deal with you later. So that was the first one where I was like, this is it. Everything came together. All the investments I had made into preparing myself to be a professional speaker. It is when I truly committed to turning speaking from a hobby into a business. Okay. That was the first one.
Oh, such a powerful story. Oh, goodness. You're such a good storyteller. I want to say that as well.
Thank you. So the second one, it wasn't, this one I started off saying, it wasn't in front of a stage. It is when I closed my first $100,000 speaking, training, and consulting package with one company.
Yes. You said I got 6 figures, one client.
One client.
6 figures, one client. I love it.
That was the first one. That was the first one. Okay. So you're sitting across from this panel of people. Nobody looks like you. They're coming to you for answers. And I didn't shrink. I didn't identity shift. I didn't pretend like I was there to fix every answer. I was there to solve an issue y'all bringing me in for. So when I'm working with mental health clinicians, I always say, well, what did they book you for? You worried about that? That's for the debrief call when you get to upsell them or keep them in your cycle. I'm sitting across from them and, so this is our second meeting. And so there's like, stone face. So, this is what we're thinking about. And I said, oh, this is my price. This is what we're thinking about. So I built a comprehensive package. How did I do that? Because at that point I had years of assessment, synthesizing data, analyzing data, disseminating data. So I could do comprehensive assessments. I understood humans and behaviors. I knew it all. And so we agreed $100,000. And I just said, you'll get the contract within 72 hours. And they said, okay. When I hung up that computer, I was sweating, my leg was shaking, and I just started crying.
Did you do a praise dance on them? Did you do a praise? Oh, that's the best moment when you have the stone face and you're both in the negotiation, and then it's like, close the laptop. Woo.
Yes. So I know that was long-winded, but I wanted to share behind the scenes, big stage, and in front of 650 people.
Yeah. And also like intimate, right? Like more of the consulting, like you said, the assessment side, and then the keynote, right? Like in the full keynote, right? Like bring you in the Q&A and all of that. I love that you share both of the sides of those stories. So folks, if you're watching this and you're enjoying, watch on YouTube, like and subscribe. Y'all know the deal. But please, if you have questions, please put them into the chat. We will get to that in a moment. I only got a couple more for you. This has been an amazing opportunity. And I hope to bring you in again, right, to talk a little bit more about your work and how to build speaker ecosystems. And that's
Mm,
actually my next question for you, right? Because that's something that you speak a lot about in your marketing and your content, about how it can't just be this part-time thing. You have to build a speaker's ecosystem. So for you, what does that ecosystem consist of, especially when we're talking about mental health professionals?
absolutely. When I think of the ecosystem, I think of it as a tree. So if I am the brand and my thought leadership is what I infuse in everything I do, everything I talk about, all the branches of the tree are part of that ecosystem that keeps me rooted and grounded. So if I deviate from that, my roots are showing. So, but that keeps me grounded, literal tree. So the ecosystem are all the things that can branch off from what I say, I speak about, but the transformations I can create because of what I am trained to speak about, teach about, and facilitate about. And so mine is evolving mental capacity. So your people are not falling apart by the seams behind the scene. And so mental capacity, so often we think about, oh, I can do more, I can do more. We know what that turns into: burnout, poor workplace culture, not seeing people for their unique identities because all of these distractions. I go in to work with organizations to help their people learn to evolve their mental capacity without harm. And so that's the core of my ecosystem. But how I do that, I provide keynote services, I provide consulting services, I license intellectual property, major opportunities there. I licensed it. I have a podcast. Is it money generating? No. But it is the longest standing keynote that you can produce is your own podcast.
Your own stage.
So your own stage. So I host Sessions to Stages, which is a 3-day virtual summit for mental health professionals. I got the academy. So all the things I can do, but it's all coming from the core of my tree. I'm the mental health brand, and my thought leadership, which creates transformation. Everything stems from that. I'm not
Right.
talking about 6, 7 things over there, because when we think about the ecosystem of how the world works, everything has to work in unison to make it flourish.
Mm. So it's like the branches, right? Like you're the core of the tree. These are the different branches. Some of them are like monetization, and it sounds like some of them are community building, bringing brand awareness. And I love that you brought in making your own stage. Like I think that so many speakers in general, mental health or not, want to wait for someone else to give them permission. And I'm like, the biggest permission you can give for yourself is working on your craft every day. And that's
Mhm.
going to be a podcast, right? Or a YouTube channel. And, and y'all, some of y'all are not the greatest on camera. You don't like being on camera. You're not going to put on this fancy hat or this beautiful hoodie that I have on, right? Like you're just not with it. But you can do an audio podcast. You don't have to start off with the fancy equipment. I literally, when I had a podcast called Boy Meets Wellness, and it was an
Mm,
LGBT wellness podcast that I
mm.
started the very beginning. Apple headphones, the little string ones, was my microphone.
The plugs and
Zoom, plug into the phone on Zoom, recorded it, put it over to GarageBand, and uploaded it. It was during the pandemic. I was like, I just need to speak to my people. I want to be able to speak. I don't have a camera.
mm-mm.
So just don't make excuses, y'all. Get started. I love that your ecosystem also, Dominique, is so core into the transformation that you want to create for the world, right? Like it's not just about what the organization said is their problem. You have tapped in so well to say, no, I know that this is an issue and this is a challenge because the people that I love are going through it at your organizations. So not only are you solving it for them, for the people who work there, they're going to get that love as well.
Absolutely.
Super,
Well
super,
said.
super, super powerful. Super powerful. I'm an active listener, y'all. I actually do these interviews because I want to learn. And this is the easier way to do it. Most of the time it's hard to get y'all on calls and stuff like that. So let's talk about this amazing group that you've built. What's the name of it? It's the what Academy? Can you say it
Uh,
again?
Amplify Academy. And it was
Amplify Academy.
Amplify. So they're my amplifiers. It was
Yeah.
Amplify something another, but something didn't reveal in the trademark search, so I had to pivot.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So
Amplify Academy, and it's a 12-week group for mental health professionals. Is this your first cohort that you're doing with them right
it is.
now?
It
Oh,
is.
congratulations. So they're almost done. They're going to graduate and all of that. Okay, so tell us about it. Like, number one, like, how do people, if they interested, how do they get started with it? But also, like, what's the transformation that the group is currently having in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. So one, you can go to speaktothesoul.com/connect. That'll just have everything and how to connect with me. And we are open for cohort number 2. The biggest transformation I saw, kind of where we started, taking what they do in session and transferring it into speaking services that people want to buy. And so that transformation has been happening in real time where people are unlearning behaviors and thought patterns that have kept them stuck. They are learning how to create systems because many of us are smaller businesses. So that transformation of, oh, there are things I can put in place that can help me run this business. So it is 12 weeks or 90 days. We have weekly coaching hours. We have learning intensive lives. This ain't a theory driven program. This is not a module driven heavy program. This is momentum, doing the real work. You're given everything you need to succeed. Within a program, everyone comes in with an assessment. We call it a speaker score. I coach you to that score. Don't tell me you want to be coached this way when you haven't done A, B, C, and D at a foundational level. Okay. Because I'm pretty sure you can relate to that. People are like, oh, I'm ready to, do that. You can do that, but ain't nobody paying you through Zelle if they're ready to cut a $25,000 check. So let's slow down,
Yep.
get your systems in
Build
order.
the foundation first. Yep.
Okay. So within the academy, we focus on 6 pillars. We focus on positioning and presence, packaging and pricing, pipeline and processes, pitching and partnerships, performance and profit, and progress and planning.
I love that. I love that the end is the planning too, because it's like we need processes in this business.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
So you go through all the pillars through the live coaching. People come through, kind of get support, get the work done. When you say you work with speakers that are mental health professionals, do you have any qualifications based on that assessment? Like, do they have to be licensed? Do they not have to be licensed? Like, how does that work?
You can be an intern. You can be a student that's training to be a mental health professional. You could be a coach. You could be a therapist. You could be a psychologist. If your message is done through the way of mental health and wellness, you're welcome here.
Yes, I love that. I love that, because then you get to bring in, right, people at different parts of their career. So I imagine, similar in speaking for profit, what ends up happening with my clients is they build their own economy, right? Like they start referring each other, right? Like, you're a specialty in this. Oh, I know you do emotional intelligence work. Oh, I know you speak on sports psychology. And then they can actually support each other beyond the program, which is even more amazing to see. Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest barriers that I see a lot of mental health professionals who are maybe emerging, because we have 3 tiers, who are emerging into their speaking business. They really haven't fully committed to, who am I going to be as a speaker? How do I translate that information? And so building that community. So yes, we have a very active online community, and you're right. People are referring, and they're helping people get reach on their posts as we talk about positioning. One of the best things I can tell you, let people know what you speak, train, or consult on, because one of the best compliments is to have your name mentioned in rooms when you are not there.
Preach.
And so all the people that come through the academy, they get put in a speaker directory. And so when I know I need to refer, because my pipeline, she flowing. Okay. When I'm ready to refer people whom I can attest to their integrity and their work, we have a speaker directory. Everyone in the program gets 6 months free. And then that's another offer that's rolling out. It'll be $20 a month. You can get in the directory, and it's a one-stop shop for organizers and companies to come to find qualified mental health speakers.
Yeah. And then they've been certified by you. So, you can trust them, and you know that they're amazing.
Yeah.
I always want to ask this question because, you know, people watch this and they're like, they'll slide in my DMs and they'll be like, Evolve, you know, I'm thinking about Dominique, you know, she cool. I'm like, yeah. But who do you not want to work with? So when they do slide in there, I could be like, look, my friend Dominique, that's not the one. You know, I could send them to one of my enemies. No, I'm just kidding.
She said that out loud too. Oh, I'm gonna have to use that. You can go to my enemy over there. I love that you asked that question because think about the person whom I just described. I would not want to work with anybody that is one that needs convincing to get paid. I see that so often. People like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm in the business about going for the big shebang because we work too hard to get paid nickels and dimes. So my services and my programs, like I said, they're not sure they want to get paid. They're unsure if they even want to do this speaking thing or share their expertise. If you're not ready to commit your time, your effort, and your energy to grow for you, not for me. Okay. If you prefer listening and learning without implementing, you're not for me. And lastly, if you want your hand held and all done for you services, the academy isn't for you. Probably another offer is for you. I'm ready for people who are ready to take a risk because they ask themselves, am I willing to risk who I am for what I say I desire and who I'm destined to become? That's a risk.
Yep. It is a risk. It is a
Mhm.
risk. And it has been an honor. This has been an amazing conversation. I don't know why you ain't got no questions. I see at least 7 of y'all that have been watching consistently, off and on. So if you do have questions, please put them in the chat as we wrap up. Dominique, I want to just as we close, I want to ask you, where do you see yourself in the next like 5 years? Like what's some of the things that are on your bucket list? I know travel is a part of that, right? Like I know there's some destinations we're hitting, but anything personal or professional you want to share with the audience?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about? What do you see this growing into?
Mhm. Mo, that's a powerful question. Personally, I foresee myself relocating out of the states. South Africa has been calling my name for a few years, and so that's personal. And as I shared earlier, being a childless Black woman, I do hope to have a family one day of my own, and or however that family is made up. So that's still important to me. Professionally, I foresee having the biggest mental health program that's training mental health professionals to diversify their gifts so they're making more impact, income, and independence.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see that happen. When you think about, I have a dream to move out the country as well. As
Mm.
we wrap up, where do you want to move? Because we might be neighbors. Like, what destinations are on there?
Well,
Name at least 5 of them because we do have these internet stalkers, and next thing you know, we're all in Mexico, and it's like, how we all end up here? So give us at least 3, so we can have some diversity there.
okay. Ghana is on the list, but that was on the top of my list, but the US got put on a no visa list for Ghana. So we can't even get visas right now. Just so y'all know.
Wow.
But Ghana, and I know people are like, oh, you moving to Cape Town, that's just like, that's too modern. I'm realistic with myself. I need a lot of culture, but I also need some modernness. So Cape Town is my primary right now. I have Ghana, and I've even been looking at Kenya.
Okay, that's
Mhm.
beautiful. That's beautiful. On my list, I got Portugal. I love Lisbon.
I knew you were
And
going to say that.
yes, I mean, I think I put it on everyone's post. So if
Oh,
y'all see
okay.
me pop up there, y'all probably know. Lisbon is one of my favorite places. I like Porto as well, which I visited
Mhm.
in Portugal. I really love Mexico, but I'm from California, so I love Mexican food. I feel like I could eat tacos every day. I don't know if my wife can. She's from Maryland, and she hasn't built the same stomach and infrastructure, so we might have to battle on that. And then Southeast Asia is beautiful, and it continues to pop up in my life, but I have not visited yet. My cousin is there right now, y'all. He said it's 100 degrees and humid, so I don't know.
Um,
I don't know. I might have to cut the locks if we decide on that because I can't be out there with the mane. But maybe, I have not been to the continent of Africa yet. So maybe I'll visit you, and then that might be a transformation that happens and end up in Cape Town. I do have some good friends that are there, and they just talk about how beautiful it is, how great the food is. I know the educational system is also amazing there. So for your future family, so I'm excited to dream and manifest this for both of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm hoping I can get to Southeast Asia sometime this summer to check it out. So I know my list is going to move. And this past February, I spoke at Nelson Mandela University in Port Elizabeth. And so I just feel so called to the Southern area. So, but
Yeah.
yes, we're going to pray over it, manifest it, and actually do the work to get there.
Yes, Ashe, Ashe. Well, thank you so much again for coming through. People said, y'all, they said that the questions were so great they didn't have any. So that means I did my homework as an interviewer, y'all. I grew up watching Auntie Oprah, so I take these moments really, really personal. And it's always great to have a great story to share. So, Dominique, thank you so much for being here. How can people like and follow and do all of that
Yes.
as we head out? What's the best places to follow you? Because I know you're everywhere.
Yes. I'm everywhere, but I don't like to be everywhere. You can find me on Threads, LinkedIn, Facebook, and IG at Dominique Pritchett. That's my handle. If you are interested in the Accelerator Academy, you can go to speaktothesoul.com/connect. And you can find all the ways I can support you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dominique. Thank y'all for using your most valuable resource with us, which is your time. And until next time, peace.